Before we start the show, I want to give you guys a reminder that the entries for the 5th annual Sleeper Wire Pro-Am are still available. We're still taking entries for a couple more weeks now. If you haven't heard of it, it's a large charity league with analysts, podcasters, and writers from around the fantasy industry, such as Justin Boone, Jake Seeley, Marcus Grant, Pat Fitzmaurice, Matt Harmon, Ryan McDowell, and more. We are keeping the entry fee the same as last year. It's $50 to get into a Pro-Am, $30 to get into a Sleeper Wire Listener League, or $75 for both. Go to sleeperwire.com/donate. After you've donated, take a screenshot of the confirmation and email it to sleeperwire@gmail.com. Include your name, email address, and Sleeper username, and we will get you on the list. We had 7 leagues last year. Let's make this year the biggest year yet.
I'm ready for all of it, through all the pain, all the way, the fight for my life, the love, you're taking it all the way,
Welcome, everybody, to the Sleeper Wire Show. Welcome to the end of July. The fantasy season hopefully is quickly approaching. We have had a lot of stuff going on this past week that we are going to talk about. I am your host, Professor Chris, and with me I have back on the show, Greg. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's doing pretty well. Always excited to be on a show with you, man.
It is fun. It's been a while since I've been on one. Been crazy times with COVID and the baby and all that crazy stuff. Fallon, you are also on the show. How are you doing? Welcome to the show. I don't think I've been on one with you yet.
No, I'm excited to be with you. You're my favorite professor since we're both math geeks.
That's what all of my students tell me as well. So
I don't believe it.
Yeah, I don't believe it either.
You know, usually my teaching evaluations at the end of the semester are pretty good, but there's always that one student who is like, he was just way too sarcastic. And probably because I just told a joke that they didn't get and it rubbed them the wrong way, so they give me like 1s, but all the other marks are like really good.
Whatever happened to sticks and stones break my bones, but words will never hurt me?
You know what? I don't know. Maybe I need to start hitting my students. Start bringing a paddle to class just like it's the 70s.
Do it!
If only. If there should be a rate my student just like there's a rate my professor. That's all I'm saying.
You rate them with their grades.
No, they earn their grades. I do not give grades. They earn grades.
Correct.
That's a huge misconception. Why did you only give me this? Why did you only earn that?
Why did you F up so badly?
Yeah, if you didn't get the grade you wanted, maybe I didn't get the work that I wanted. Yeah, it's funny how that works out. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the show. So today we are going to talk about some news here at the beginning. We haven't done news on the show in a couple weeks. And then we have a segment called Old Faces, New Places. Kicking off the news, this is the strangest offseason of probably NFL history due to the COVID pandemic. Players are starting to opt out of the season. We saw this with the NBA. We saw this with Major League Baseball, which it's, now it's spreading even faster in Major League Baseball, which is pretty crazy. But players are starting to opt out. And at first it was just, here's an offensive lineman, defensive tackle, and so on. But we've had some big names. When I say big names, I mean fantasy relevant names and or at least historically fantasy relevant names starting to opt out due to COVID. The first one to opt out was Devin Funchess, which, yeah, he hasn't really done much in a couple of years, but he was projected to be Aaron Rodgers' number 2 wide receiver this year. Marquise Goodwin also opting out. Neither one of those guys is probably going to make much of a fantasy impact anyway, but the one that shook the fantasy world, Damian Williams, announced on Wednesday that he is opting out due to COVID-19. Greg, now that you have had a day to think about this, what is your reaction? Because I know what my reaction was. My reaction was to go to all of my dynasty leagues and be like, okay, let me find Darwin Thompson or DeAndre Washington. What about you?
Well, my first reaction was CEH Clyde Edwards-Helaire was already getting overdrafted in my opinion, and now he's getting even more overdrafted. And people are gonna be like, he's gonna be great. Rookie running backs rarely ever explode on the scene. I think Saquon Barkley was the most recent one that actually did something. CEH is not Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is a generational talent, and I don't throw that term out very often. But Saquon Barkley, oh my gosh, that man has calves for days, right? So
Those hammies.
Oh, I know they're so sexy. Anywho, can't be distracted with those muscles. Anywho, I think it's going to be the CEH show. I don't know how well he's going to do, but I think his old ADP, where he's getting drafted in the 3rd round, is about right. Now, before I was not for it, I was against it because I thought Damian Williams was going to be the man for the first half of the season plus. Not anymore. Now I think it's going to be a CEH show with some sprinkled of Darrell Williams and sprinkles of Darwin Thompson in there. I don't think they're going to bring anyone else in. I doubt it anyways. They might, but I think they address their need in the offseason drafting him first in the 1st round.
In case anyone was not aware, CEH is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the rookie that the Chiefs drafted. That's all right. You just started saying CEH. I wanted to make sure in case anyone who's never played fantasy is listening to this particular show for the very first time ever. That's who it is. Fallon, what is your reaction to this? What are you sort of thinking as you break down the fallout from Damian Williams deciding to opt out?
Well, I actually traded all my Damian Williams last year. I just didn't see him, 2 years ago he was doing great, and I got him, I sold him when he was high. So I honestly don't have that much of him, except for I'm in a Scott Fish Bowl women's league where it's a copycat best ball Scott Fish league, and he is my RB1. So, that's kind of... So I am happy about Funches because I love Lazard, and that just kind of just ups my love for Lazard.
I'm in the middle of a 12-team dynasty startup draft right now, and it's a super flex PPR, and I just grabbed Lazard in the 15th round at the 15-12.
There you go.
Yes.
So yeah, I was pretty happy with that after hearing the Funches news.
Right.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I might actually have to make my next 2 picks during the show. We'll see though. The Damian Williams news was certainly the biggest news due to COVID when it comes to players opting out. This is not going to be the last player that opts out. We are going to see more fantasy relevant players and people who are even more fantasy relevant than Damian Williams opt out here in the next couple of weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if by the time this weekend is over, there's another big name or two.
I'm terrified.
Stefon Diggs has been hinting for over a week now that he's been whining anyways on Twitter, though, that there's a good chance he might be opting out.
Yeah, and that would be a huge blow to fantasy teams and to the Bills as well. Good for John Brown owners, I guess.
Cole Beasley.
Right?
Yeah, and Cole Beasley. But yeah, honestly, it's a crazy time. This is so unprecedented. I've been on the side of there should not be an NFL season ever since this started. You can look back at the shows I've been on for the last few months. There shouldn't be one. I've always said I think there's a much better chance that we have no season than a full season. I put a poll out on Twitter at @prof_ChrisSW in case you want to go check it out. When do you think the NFL season will be canceled? During training camp, after the first 2 weeks, after first 6 weeks, or it won't because there's too much money involved? Greg, you retweeted it. Which one did you vote for?
Well, I'm going to let you give I voted for it's too much money, which means it's not going to be canceled. I think it's going to be a crazy year. Buckle up. It's going to be a roller coaster. And by the way, you're a party pooper, Chris. If you think there's going to be no NFL season, you're a party pooper. That's all you are.
No, that's not it. I want there to be. Trust me, I wish that all this shit wasn't happening and that we were going to have an NFL season. I think if we have any NFL, it's going to be a couple weeks, and then there's going to be an explosion, and then it's going to get canceled. Major League Baseball, I don't think is going to make it the full 60 games.
That's what I was going to say. I think that what's going to happen with the NFL, they're watching what's going on with baseball to really evaluate if it's feasible to have an NFL season. And what's interesting and the question to ask is, if there is no season, or even if it's kind of cut short, what will the 2021 draft look like? I mean, how will they determine? It's going to be, I mean, not only if they cancel it, I mean, all the money and all that gone, but then it's going to make the draft order for 2021. I mean, we don't even know how that'd work.
Before we get too into talking about implications or anything like that, I want to cut this discussion short because we are going to have an FFU, the Fantasy Football University show, that is strictly dedicated to, or at least mostly dedicated to, talking about COVID and contingency plans and implications and things like that. I just wanted to get your thoughts on if there will be a season or not. I think we will not get a full season. Enough about COVID. LeSean McCoy, as of Thursday, signed a 1-year deal with Tampa Bay. If he's out there in your Dynasty League, pick him up. It doesn't hurt to have a running back who's a pass-catching back in Tom Brady's system. Ronald Jones, I think, is clearly hurt in redraft by this, but Tom Brady's a snowflake. He does not like to get breathed on, let alone sacked. So he wants someone who can, protect him. LeSean McCoy he's automatically the best pass protector in that backfield now.
But isn't he like 65 and ready for Social Security?
So is Tom Brady. Brady. He's up there.
They're both pretty geriatric, but
for their positions.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I think Vaughn's not as touched as Ronald Jones is in this case, because you said the pass catching. I think Vaughn is one of the better pass blocking running backs coming out of college that we've seen in a while. It doesn't happen too often, but Vaughn is so just ferocious in the way he does things that he does pass blocking pretty well.
Yeah, this is more if he's out there in Dynasty, grab him.
Yes.
No need to get shady in redraft though, right?
Yeah, deep league, maybe.
Maybe with your last round pick. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Who would you take in redraft? Would you take LeSean McCoy or Ronald Jones in a redraft league?
Ronald Jones, because I don't know. I don't see Shady lasting. I don't know. Why would they sign him? I don't know. That's a
right.
Like, it's such a conundrum. Like
See, this news broke like 2 hours before we hit record for this show. We haven't had time to marinate on.
I go Ronald Jones. I'm gonna put my foot down and say Ronald Jones.
I would take Ronald Jones as well. What about you, Fallon?
Yeah, I would hold my breath and plug my nose and go with Ronald Jones.
All right.
That's fair.
Let's go ahead and burn through these last pieces of news here. We don't really need to break these down. Dalvin Cook showed up to training camp. He still wants a new deal. Surprise, surprise. But based on the CBA, it wasn't really beneficial to him to not be there. Alex Smith, this is good news, has been cleared to return to practice. Yes, great news. Excuse me. After breaking his leg and having 17 surgeries and a near amputation due to necrosis? Like his flesh was dying or something like that. He's been cleared to return to practice. This is huge for this guy.
That's literally awesome. Spent $105 in my out of my 1,000 budget. I spent $105 on 101. I'm sorry, on Alex Smith, because if he comes back, I think he's going to supplant Haskins, because Haskins, I think, will just learn better behind Smith, and I think that's just great.
Is that in the Sleeper Wire League?
No, that was my home league I commissioned in.
Because that Sleeper Wire Empire League, I'm pretty sure we have $1,000 of fab.
I think we do.
And I might just go put 102 down on Alex Smith since you just said 101.
That was my other.
Yeah, I might go do 103.
I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it, Greg.
I think I'm going 103.
I need to go to mine now. It's just to see.
Darius Geis tweeted that he's been cleared to play this season. So good that he still has the confidence in that crazy crowded Washington backfield. One of our first articles we had go up this offseason was about the Washington Redskins backfield. So go to Patreon.com/SleeperWire. All of our articles are free content on there. So you don't have to make a monthly pledge or anything like that to get access to the articles. The articles are absolutely free. Great Washington football team article on there. That's going to be a hard habit to break.
Still call them San Diego Chargers.
Oh yeah, and the Oakland Raiders. Actually, I feel like the transition to Las Vegas Raiders has been pretty seamless for me.
Same.
But I still will say San Diego Chargers occasionally. And now Washington football team, which is going to be, it's going to be weird.
I'm still going to call them the Redskins. I'm a rebel.
I mean, I'm not going to call them by that name if that's not their team name. And like teams have changed names periodically throughout all of sports. I mean, the Browns left town and went and became the Ravens, right?
True. And
like the Browns of today. Yeah, the Colts they were the Colts. They just moved cities. They didn't change names. But like, baseball teams, like throughout, the past century, baseball teams have changed their name. Just a couple years ago, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays became the Tampa Bay Rays. So like teams change their names fairly frequently. It's not that big of a deal. And, we'll adjust. Zach Taylor said that they are going to put a lot on Joe Burrow right out the gate. So if you drafted Joe Burrow in dynasty leagues, if you were lucky enough to get him, it's looking good. You're going to get those fantasy points right off the bat. He did sign his $36.1 million rookie contract as well. Good for this kid getting his money right away. All right, let's move into our next segment, Old Faces, New Places. We've each chosen 3 players who switch teams either via trade or free agency. So this is going to be their first year with their new team, and how we'll think they'll do this season, either good or bad, or are they a value? Are they a bust? Just based on, how we feel about these players. And we're going to go Greg, Fallon, and then I will go last, and we're each going to go one player at a time. So, Greg, why don't you kick it off? Give us your first player that you've chosen who is an old face in a new place.
I'm going to go with Matt Breida. I'm sorry, Hoos, but Matt Breida is going to be the pass catcher role over Laird. Main reason I say that because Howard can't catch. We've seen him try. It's just not pretty. Breida is also very dynamic. The guy is fast. He's called the Cheetah when he was with the Niners. It was beautiful. There's 115 targets to the running backs in Miami last year. So when Drake left, Laird came in. They had 45 combined targets for that running back position. That was kind of the RB2 position. I think Breida's going to be great. I think he's going to be a RB2, RB3, RB4, I guess I should say. High end, his ceiling is RB2. His floor is RB4, in my opinion. So I think he's going to be great. He's super cheap. Go get him. You're not going to pay too much for him. I like him a lot.
You know what? Fallon, I'm going to skip over you. And I'm going to go straight into my guy. And it is purely because Greg started with Matt Breida. Because one of my guys was Jordan Howard. And I want to go ahead and jump into this. So we'll go Greg, Fallon, Chris after this one. But I want to talk about Jordan Howard here. Listen, he's not the most exciting running back to own. He never has been. He's not a sexy name, but his average draft position right now is the 7-10. He's being drafted as the 36th running back off the board. He's a starting running back who you can get in the 7th or 8th round, and his only competition is Matt Breida, who regularly misses time. It's like Matt Breida gets injured almost every game, it seems. Yeah, he may play the next week, but he gets injured right away. No, don't you shush me. What I speak is the truth. You're a 49ers fan. You should know this.
He wasn't injured all that often.
Oh, whatever.
Okay.
Jordan Howard is a player who can easily handle 250-plus carries. He's not a PPR guy, but getting a 1,000-yard running back in the 7th round is rare. He is especially valuable in leagues where you get any amount of points per rushing attempts. I have a league where you get 5 points for every attempt. That's huge. Howard's great in a league like that. He's not going to be top 12, but he can definitely be top 24. He's going to be a good mid to late option in any type of scoring for you. But 7th or 8th round for a guy who's going to be an RB2, that's pretty awesome. And you can get him after Matt Breida. Let me put it that way. All right, Fallon, your first player.
David Johnson is the player I chose. Now, there is no player aside from Antonio Brown who's fallen further from grace in the last couple seasons than David Johnson. The former Cardinals back was number 1 in PPR running back in 2016. He was number 12 in 2017, number 9 in 2018, but only played 13 games in 2019 and didn't even rank in the top 30. So his fantasy value for 2020 is not only tied with how he fits into the new team, but how he's feeling physically. There were reports out of the Cardinals camp last year that Johnson wasn't always finishing his runs the way he used to. He also battled ankle injury in the middle of the season that ultimately cost him his starting job. So that's the bad news. Now let's go to why I'm excited about David Johnson. You know, there is a little extra pressure after being traded for DeAndre Hopkins, perhaps the best player on the Texans roster. Johnson not only has to prove he still can be a valuable player, but the trade for Nuke puts him under a microscope. But the Texans' offense is built nicely for David Johnson to have a successful season. Great numbers can occur for him this year with Watson as his quarterback. In the past, it has been proven that Johnson can make catches out of the backfield, as his time with the Cardinals saw him make a total of 208 receptions for 2,219 yards. Another plus for Johnson is in the past 3 seasons combined, he had just 3 fumbles and none last year. Watson will likely use Johnson to his full ability this upcoming season. Not only will Johnson be the main running back for the Texans offense, but since the Texans no longer have their superstar wide receiver, targets will be spread out in many different ways, including to DJ, suggesting that Johnson might be more valuable as a pass-catching back than a rushing the football. So if healthy, history has proven that Johnson's ceiling is very high. The new opportunity in Texas with Watson suggests he could be the number 1 overall running back. It's been a while since he's been in an offense of the caliber of what the Texans have right now, even with Hopkins no longer there. But with Johnson's pass-catching ability, either wide out or in the backseat, it's a huge asset for quarterback Watson. I have him initially around RB2, but I think the opportunity to excel as RB1 with the Texans is there. I mean, his ceiling is high.
His ADP has also certainly risen a lot, too. Just a few weeks ago, it was in the 5th round. Now he's middle of the 3rd. So people are catching on to David Johnson.
Yeah, I love him. And he's in our league. I got him in my league. You guys were all laughing at me. In the league that has no name.
Meh.
Oh, yeah, be quiet.
Yes, that's all I have to say is meh.
For the record, he's had 6 fumbles the last 3 seasons.
Yes, the guy is, don't get me wrong, when healthy, great.
And he only played 1 game in 2017. And that counts as one of his 3. He had 2 fumbles in that 1 game.
I like Duke Johnson more than him.
You like Duke Johnson over David Johnson? Are you high?
No, because I'm not allowed to, first off. Secondly, I might be
lives in Portland, can't smoke weed.
Yeah, due to I have a federal license, therefore I'm not allowed to smoke weed. Yes, it's kind of a whatever. Anywho, no, I like Duke Johnson better because A, he can stay healthy. A, he's also younger. Sorry, that's B. B, he's younger. I like David Johnson for the price. You could have gotten him earlier. I just don't like
you
can get him now.
Yep. I would agree with that. There's still running backs in the 3rd round he's going ahead of who I would take over him. I would take Le'Veon Bell and Chris Carson, Melvin Gordon, and probably, well, maybe not Jonathan Taylor this year in a redraft, but I think I would take those other 3 ahead of David Johnson.
I can't disagree. As I said, I see him as an RB2. He just has the potential to break out as an RB1. So he's kind of a risky breakout player, but he's got the potential to win a league or not.
Let's move on here. Greg, your second player.
Teddy Bridgewater. I'm excited about this guy because there's no Cam Newton. He's the most veteran quarterback on the team. They paid him money. They bring him there. and they're familiar with him. The OC, Joe Brady, who came from LSU, was the offensive assistant for the Saints from 2017 to 2018. This is his first. Joe Brady. I'm going to go into Joe Brady a little bit real quick. Joe Brady was not the offensive coordinator for LSU Tigers. He was the pass game coordinator and wide receivers coach. Before that, I say he was at the Saints, so he knows Teddy Bridgewater. He likes Teddy Bridgewater. He's going to be more like Sean Payton, and the fact that he's going to do short games, short passing game, and that's going to be great. He has weapons to throw to. Robbie Anderson, CMC. Who doesn't love CMC? J.J. Moore and Curtis Samuel. It's going to be dynamic. I'm super excited about it. I don't even know what to have him as a ceiling, but I know he's going to be a solid quarterback too. And that's how I draft him. I like him a lot.
Now, do you think he's worth the drafting, though? Because I'm looking at ADP on Fantasy Football Calculator, and he is being drafted. Now, granted that this has kickers and defenses in it, but in the 17th round, he's the 25th quarterback off the board.
Yeah, I'd draft him there in a heartbeat. Like, I don't understand what's not to like about Teddy Bridgewater and all the people he has to throw to, and the Matt Rule from Baylor who loves to throw the ball. I don't understand the hate on Teddy Bridgewater.
Bridgewater or Garoppolo?
Garoppolo, because I'm a homer.
Bridgewater or Goff?
Bridgewater.
What about Drew Lock?
Bridgewater.
Tannehill.
Tannehill.
So you're taking Bridgewater over these guys who are have ADPs in the 20s anyway.
Yes.
So, all right. For what it's worth, I do think Teddy will have his most successful season. I don't see him as fantasy relevant, though. Superflex, yeah, good to own, but
well, obviously
not a
quarterback
redraft.
two. I'm not saying I would pick him as my quarterback one. I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying Superflex wise. I guess I should clarify.
Gotcha. That's a big difference.
It is a huge difference.
Fallon, let's move to your second player.
All right, so we're going to talk about Hayden Hurst now. Now, he's one of my favorite tight ends who's not named Kittle, Ertz, whatever the other, Walker, those top
Kelsey.
10, Kelsey. Yeah, thank you. Why did my brain block on Kelsey? Now, this is a guy you can get late in your draft who has the opportunity to explode in a great team in a great new place. Now, I want to get out of the way why people may not like him and be hesitant to select them. Inexperience. Hurst has only played 2 seasons in the NFL, and in those seasons, he only totaled 43 catches for 512 yards and 3 touchdowns. For some people, this is a reason to stay away, allowing Hurst to fly under the radar. Now I'm going to tell you why I love Hurst. Last year, Hayden Hurst ranked top 10 in yards per target, yards per pass through, and he had a true catch rate of 90.9%. Now, that's a lot of efficiency wrapped up in a guy who couldn't beat out Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown for enough targets to matter. In Atlanta, he should have enough targets to matter. Austin Hooper's departure leaves between 6 and 7 targets per game in Atlanta. Hurst should be able to swoop right in and scoop up those tight end targets, given that his competition for said targets are Kerry Lee and Jaden Graham. Hurst steps into an already established spot where Hooper produced at the tight end 6 in PPR last year. This year, I predict that Hurst will finish in the top 10 fantasy tight end. I know that's bold, but that's what I'm feeling. We still have to see how Hurst and quarterback Ryan work well together, especially with no preseason. But I have confidence that Hurst will fit in nicely as Ryan's safety valve out in the passing game. In addition, defenses are going to be tied up and not trying to cover Julio and Calvin Ridley. Presumably, if Todd Gurley is healthy and on the field, defenses will respect him enough to amplify the effectiveness of his play action. Then we have Hurst rumbling down the middle of the field, splitting the safeties who are trying to not to get embarrassed by Jones and Ridley. Plus, The Falcons' below average defense allows the 10th most points in the NFL, so you can expect Atlanta to be passing the ball frequently. I probably wouldn't draft Hurst until around the 10th round. Hurst is certainly one of the guys I really like, assuming his ADP stays firm in the 10th or the 11th round. But that's my guy, Hurst.
You had said that it might be a hot take that Hurst would finish in the top 10, but ADP has him being drafted in the 7th round as the 8th tight end off the board. He's going ahead of Higbee, Hunter Henry, Jared Cook, Noah Fant. I mean, he's been drafted inside the top 10. I think that's a mistake. I think, honestly, Jaden Graham played pretty well last year when Austin Hooper was out in the very limited action that he saw. I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a step up, and Hayden Hurst, I think, is going to disappoint a lot of people personally. Greg, what do you think? Are you on the Hurst side or the Jaden Graham side? Because it seems people are one or the other.
People are discrediting Hooper and how talented he is, first off. Secondly, Hurst hasn't done anything to really say his first-round draft capital. Calvin Ridley got the uptick in targets after Hooper left. Yes, the tight end, what'd you say, Chris? What is his name?
Jaden Graham.
Thank you. Graham.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly my point. Calvin Ridley got the targets. The targets went to Calvin Ridley. It didn't go to the tight end position. So I understand the love for Hurst, like the concept and the logic behind it. I just don't agree with it. Personally, I think Hooper is much better than people give him credit for.
Actually, Hooper got more targets than Ridley did. Hooper was number 2 in targets in Atlanta.
Yeah, that's example buying my. That's like it's bringing my point even more to conclusion that Hooper is better than people give him credit for.
Right,
and he was saying once Hooper was gone, the targets then went to Ridley.
Yes.
What I'm also saying is to draft him in the 10th round. You might get great value in the 10th round. He has an opportunity to flourish in a great, passing offense, and he might be one of those tight ends that surprises. Later in the draft. I wouldn't grab him in the 8th round. I would take him in the 10th.
That's fair.
Yeah, worth a shot. I was just telling you where his ADP is right now at the 706, and that's way too rich for me, personally.
Yeah, it's too rich for me right now, too. I want to see it before. I mean, I have good hopes for him, but I still little skeptical.
All right, so I'm going to move into my second player, and it's a homer pick. Is what it's going to be called. All right, it's going to be called a homer pick. Everybody knows I'm a Colts fan, but I'm going to justify this, and I think I can do a pretty good job. It is Phillip Rivers. He's coming to a team. Listen. I got you. He's got 2 great outside threats in T.Y. Hilton and Michael Pittman. And Pittman is basically going to be the Colts version of Mike Williams for Rivers. He's got Jack Doyle at tight end. He's got Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack, and Nyheim Hines in the backfield. Those are great offensive weapons all around. But guess what? He also has that he's never had before, the top offensive line in the National Football League. Pro Football Focus ranks the Indianapolis Colts offensive line as the number 1 offensive line going into 2020. Quentin Nelson is the best overall guard in the league. He graded as the number 2 run blocker and number 7 pass blocker in 2019. They brought back Anthony Costanzo, very solid and has been for years, who was the 7th best left tackle at the position. Braden Smith was great in his first couple seasons, finishing as the number 9 tackle last year. Mark Glowinski is a good right guard, and Ryan Kelly is a stud center. He was the 8th ranked center last season. That gives the Colts 4 out of their 5 starters who were graded in the top 10 at their respective positions last season, according to Pro Football Focus. That is awesome. That's something Phillip Rivers has never had before. He's going to have time to throw. He'll be able to check down to Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, who could be another value for you in fantasy drafts. He's got outside threats, a solid tight end, and maybe I'm getting too homeristic with my excitement here. But if you usually draft 2 quarterbacks in normal 1 QB leagues, you could do worse than Phillip Rivers, and he's damn near free right now. If you have Superflex League, he is definitely worth considering as your second quarterback. I mean, he's Fantasy Football Calculator has him as the 23rd quarterback selected. Then, that's behind, Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, Drew Lock, Tannehill. I would take Rivers over all of those guys.
I take Teddy Bridgewater over him.
I would not take Teddy Bridgewater over him. All right, Fallon, what do you got?
All right. Okay. I'm not talking as a Homer Bronco fan. I just am reminding you that Phillip Rivers chokes. The guy cannot close and finish out a game. The Chargers for a couple of years ago, like at 3 years, amazing team, and couldn't get in the playoffs or just won and out. He is the biggest choker in the league. You do not trust him, and he's going to disappoint you, Indy fans. I'm sorry to say it. I will make you a bet on this that he might do great all the way up until the end, and then he's going to choke. That's what he does great at.
19-0.
Okay,
Colts going 19-0. I've been watching Phillip Rivers, football Jesus, leading the Colts to the promised land.
Football Jesus. Hey, first off, Chris, hold on a second. He has no beard, so that's incorrect. Secondly, you really made me sad and disappointed the fact you didn't bring up Paris Campbell at all. That made me really sad.
I need to. I need to see it from Paris Campbell. We haven't seen it.
He was injured.
Yeah, exactly. It's just been injuries.
So you should be excited about him just as much as Michael Pittman.
I feel like we can be more excited for Pittman than Campbell, personally.
Nonsense, poopy pants.
Can't be excited for any of them with Rivers. I've watched him choke for 16 years, 2 games a season, and he just chokes. I mean, he gets excited.
And I watched him beat the Colts in December and in the playoffs several times. So
but the problem is, it doesn't matter if he chokes, as long as he throws touchdowns and points.
Well, okay, so now we're going fantasy versus real football. Like, how many times has he made it to the Super Bowl, and how many times has he won? And he chokes. I don't
care.
Everybody knows I cannot stand Phillip Rivers.
Fantasy points. That's all we care about here. Fantasy points.
I just can't even sell out for fantasy points with that guy.
Anyways, third round. Let's move on. We got to wrap up here. Greg, what you got for your third player?
Emmanuel Sanders. That's all I got as a name. That's what you want, right?
Yep, that's it. Let's move on. Fallon, your name.
All right. Emmanuel Sanders. I'm conflicted about Emmanuel Sanders. I liked him as a Niner last year. I liked him when he was in Denver. My main problem is the Saints. The Saints have not had a good wide receiver 2 since 2017. Ted Ginn getting 70 targets for 787 yards. I like Emmanuel Sanders. I don't know if I like him with the Saints. My main issue is they don't like the wide receiver 2s on their team. They like targeting the running back, they like targeting the tight end, and absolutely love. In fact, I think they're just obsessed targeting Michael Thomas. But they paid him.
Why wouldn't you be?
Well, yeah, I don't disagree, but come on, there's other options there. But to be fair, Emmanuel Sanders is also the best wide receiver 2 on that team they've had in a long time. Better than Ted Ginn. I think he's probably the best since they had Michael Thomas and Brandon Cooks on the same team at the same time, I want to say. That is correct. I don't need to say I want to say. That is correct. So, I think he'll do okay, but I still have my reservations about him. Will Breeze finally fall off the age cliff? Maybe, but Breeze has never been big for his arm. He's been good, just accurate, short passes like Teddy Bridgewater. So, I think he'll do okay. I'm not super high on him, but if he's there as a wide receiver 3 or 4, I'd be down to take him.
Yeah, I love Emmanuel Sanders this year. Not that, you said that the Saints don't really use their wide receiver 2. They really haven't had a good one. And now they do. Emmanuel Sanders, yeah, he's a little bit older, but he still has great hands. He's still decently fast, I guess. He's always been a really good route runner. Yeah, he's a great route runner. He knows how to get separation, great hands. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I would not be surprised if he finishes inside the top 24. He's going in the 9th round right now, too.
Which than me.
Well, there's just some of the guys who are going. I would take him ahead of Marvin Jones, Tyler Boyd, Deontay Johnson.
Deontay Johnson, yes. Tyler Boyd, no. And Marvin Jones.
Will Fuller?
Yes, always over Will Fuller. Will Fuller is, you sneeze at him, he breaks. Okay? Always anything over Will Fuller. Jeez, I don't know how that's a question.
I would take him over Michael Gallup, who's going 2 rounds ahead of him.
Yeah.
Well, let me put it this way. I'd rather
I might be a homer because I love him. I'm just saying I love the guy. I'm in complete agreement with you, Chris, because he's got the talent. He might be a little older. He's got with age comes wisdom and how to, play the game. And I'm just sad the Broncos let him go. I mean, I think he's going to thrive in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Sorry,
he's going to
Greg.
be awesome. Fallon, your third player. Let's start wrapping up here.
All right, I got Austin Hooper. I decided to do both of them, just kind of pros and cons. After hyping up why I really liked Hayden Hurst in Atlanta, I just cannot say the same about Austin Hooper in Cleveland. I do not like him there, and he makes me nervous. I mean, it only took Austin Hooper a few years to blossom into one of the more valuable receiving tight ends in the NFL. His first 2 seasons were nothing special, but in 2018, he turned 88 targets into 660 yards. And then in 2019, he had 75 receptions, 787 yards, and 6 touchdowns on 97 targets across 13 games. That's pretty impressive. Hooper had some competition for targets in Atlanta, playing alongside with Julio and Calvin Ridley. Yet Hooper finished second in the team in targets. The Falcons were also airing the ball out last year, ranking first in the NFL with 684 pass attempts, while no other team had more than 633. Now, in contrast, where you look at the Browns, who ranked 19th with 539 passing attempts. They also have a Julio-level wideout in Odell Beckham Jr. and another volume hog in Jarvis Landry. Now, Baker Mayfield is also a downgrade from Matt Ryan. At least for Hooper's fantasy outlook, he is. Mayfield had a career average of 6.8 adjusted yards per pass attempt, while Ryan's marks over the past 4 years have been 10.1, 7.5, 8.7, and 7.1. Austin Hooper thrived fantasy-wise in the Falcons' pass-heavy offense. In 2019, he recorded 90 targets, which was good for 15.54 target share. Unfortunately, in Cleveland, volume will be much harder for him to come by with so many mouths to feed with Chubb, Hunt, Odell, and Landry. Volume trumps everything in fantasy, and that's especially true here, where he may not even be getting an upgrade in efficiency with the quarterback switch. So I would stay away from Hooper.
Yeah, and Njoku didn't do anything in Cleveland. He was injured, some, right. But yeah, I don't buy it. I loved Austin Hooper. I loved having him on my team this past year. I traded him in a 2 tight end league, though, and I was pretty happy I did. I got some flack for it, but I traded him for Kareem Hunt, and I'm pretty okay with that.
Good trade. I'm not liking him in Cleveland at all.
If I had a choice between Hayden Hurst and Austin Hooper, I pick Hooper. He's a better talent. Yes, you're right, Fallon, about Ryan being a better quarterback, and I don't like Stefanski because he didn't target Rudolph or Irv Smith. It was pretty even. It was kind of terrifying, honestly. And I had to do a sleeper wire short on Hooper this year, and I'm still delaying it, hoping that Njoku will be traded. But I'm going to have to suck it up here soon and do it because I love Hooper. I've always loved Hooper. I was big on him before the season started. I believe in his talent. The guy is like Jason Witten almost to me. The guy just makes it work. I don't know how he does it, but he just does it. I like him in Cleveland.
Even with Baker, you like him?
Yes and no. Like the problem is Landry. The main problem I have with the situation is Landry. Odell, OBJ, whatever. He's going to be more down the field, and Julio, like you said. Landry is a target hog beyond belief, bigger than Calvin Ridley. That's my main issue with Hooper in Cleveland is Landry. Now, if somehow Hooper goes, hey, I'm going to be open more and Baker likes him, great. I don't know how it's going to turn out, and it terrifies me. I still love Hooper. I've had a lot of shares of him. I did not trade him because I love the guy. So I will sink on this ship that's sinking.
Hooper. So Hooper or Waller?
I will take Hooper. I would take Hooper over Hurst as well. I'm taking Waller over Hooper.
Oh, a Waller, yes, no doubt.
Yeah.
Waller, yeah.
So you guys are Hurst over Hooper, but we'll take
easy.
Waller over Hooper. What about Henry?
Hooper over Hurst.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about
Over
Hooper over
Hooper?
Henry.
Henry, yeah, I don't know. Hooper's my wide receiver, my tight end 8-ish in that ballpark.
I would take Hunter Henry.
I'd take Henry. Begrudgingly.
I would take the 6 games you're going to get out of Hunter Henry.
My God.
Yeah, he's like Will Fuller. You know, you look at him wrong and he breaks.
Yep, just like that. I'm going to finish us off here. So the last player we're going to talk about in our Old Faces New Places is Brandon Cooks. So he's traded from the Rams to the Texans in exchange for a 2nd-round pick. He automatically moves into the wide receiver 1 role for the Texans since they traded Hopkins to the Cardinals. And that absence leaves more than 150 targets available in Houston. The Texans also signed Randall Cobb, who could be fantasy relevant as well, but Cobb's not going to get those 150 targets, and Brandon Cooks is a better wide receiver, for an NFL team and for a fantasy team. Brandon Cooks, super fast still. He had 4 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons before last year. He had a dangerous concussion again, which, kind of hampered him, put him out for a couple games. But 4 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. He's not going to get all 150 of those targets vacated by Hopkins, but he's probably going to get at least 100 targets, and that is certainly all Brandon Cooks needs to have over 1,000 yards. Opposite him is Will Fuller, who we already talked about, one of the most injury-prone players in the NFL. If there is a player who's worthy of the injury-prone label, it's Will Fuller, the wide receiver, Matt Breida. You can count on him. Yeah. You can count on him missing a few games. That's going to give Cooks a chance to shine. He is going to outperform his average draft position, in my opinion. He's going to outperform that 703 ADP. Brandon Cooks, going to be solid for you.
Real quick, we recap on every single player we covered. My brother, I'm going to give a shout out to him. He's a believer in Cooks as well. I am not as much because of his concussion history. As you look at concussions, they only go downhill as the more you have. Will I think this year be great for Cooks? Yes. After that, I'm very doubtful.
Well, I have to say Texans have a pretty good line, and I am all on board with Brandon Cooks. I mean, with him and Watson, oh my God. I think it's going to be, I have him in a few leagues, and I'm real excited about him, and I think he really will thrive, especially with, Will Fuller. I mean, he's the Jordan Reed of tight ends, or whatever it is, the injury-prone guy.
The Matt Breida.
No. Matt
Breida
is more accurate. You should.
Matt Breida is up there.
Don't join him on this. No, he's not.
So I gotta agree with you, Chris. I love him.
All right, that is gonna wrap it up for this week's show. Please check out the Pro-Am. Once again, this is the 5th Sleeper Wire Pro-Am. You heard the promo at the beginning of the show. Tons of returning pros and new pros as well. Just people from around the fantasy industry who are great to play with. Go to sleeperwire.com/donate. $50 to get into the Pro-Am, or $75 if you want to get into a Pro-Am and a Sleeper Wire Listener League. All goes to charity. It's for a great cause. So yeah, please go check that out. Follow us on Twitter at Sleeper Show. Greg is on there at Dino Mechanic. Fallon is at FF Just a Girl, and I am Prof_Chris SW. And then find us on the Sleeper app as well at Dino Mechanic, Just a Girl, and Professor Chris. Greg, Fallon, thanks so much for joining me this week. It was a super fun show. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.